So, I know this is late, but also this is for double booked and also for just for myself and my community. Even though, let's not talk about that. What are my favorite books of this year now that we're over halfway through the year? Can't wait to talk about that. I have 18 books that really touched the nerve for me. Now I'm gonna have to wait for the other one. I just finished like 3 books in August, and I'm going to have to give them a couple more days to say, like, yeah, they're like in the ranking of the 18 books. But yeah, can't wait to talk about them. We'll probably have a collage of the books that I really enjoyed as of more than halfway through this year. Okay, for books of 2025 as of August 4th. Yay. We Feed an Island, the true story of rebuilding Puerto Rico one meal at a time by Jose Andres. I loved it because it is written by just a genuine person who is sharing his story of how kind of the World Central Kitchen was founded and why, and all the problems they were dealing with, and also why a lot of people, including myself, don't really believe in foundations like the Red Cross and would rather people donate to much more on the ground organizations, because Red Cross has one way to solve a situation and that's the only way they solve situations. And for certain areas, it works, but like places like Hawaii does not work. The Wiccan Bargain by Gabe Cole, second book I really loved. It's about a non-binary Mexican pirate who his father has made their father. I say he because they're masculine presenting, but their father has made a deal with the demon to save their lives and also make him the most powerful and most well performed, like most famous pirate for a certain amount of years. And he's turning 17. They're turning 17. And so the deal is closing. So they survived the attack of the devil. Or it was a demon. They call him a demon. A demonio. But apparently there's a ton of demonios. So let's call them demons. And wakes up and makes a deal with another demon that wants to kill the devil. Yeah, let's call him the devil, because he is kind of the devil. And the other ones are demon lords. I'm just thinking this there. Make a deal that if they kill him, the devil, he can save his father, because his father is still alive. But Mar, which is such a weird thing to say because it's a very feminine sounding name for a masculine presenting person, but Mar has elemental magic, and the demon sees that as them having more power, the power enough to kill the devil. So it's really interesting and fascinating. There's a sequel where you focus on Dame, who's the demon, which I just finished, and I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say it was my favorite, so this is why I put The Wicked Bargain and not the other book, which I can't remember the name of it, which is weird because I read it like a couple of days ago. But yeah, that's why I put that one here and not the other one. Haben, the Deaf-Blind Woman Who Conquered Harvard Law by Haben Grimm, is a book that I read for a book club and I loved it. I adored her, which is it's an interesting thing to say, her voice, because she also narrates her own audiobook, which is like great and fascinating. I absolutely adore the fact that we have a publishing house or an audiobook that had confident enough in this author's ability, and they gave her enough combinations to read her own text, which is a weird thing to say, but it's Haben talks about a lot about how accommodations for disabilities is such hard aspects of getting, especially in that later on we discussed this is discussed in the disability community, how certain disabilities end up like conflicting with other disabilities. And so I absolutely adore the fact that she is introducing more normal people, the broad priority people of the accommodations people with disabilities want to get and should get, and the barriers that they deal with trying to get those accommodations. Ready or Not by Cara Boston is an unplanned pregnancy and kind of a romance and of acceptance of finding out who you are in these kind of crises. It's a really beautiful rom-com. I do hate the ending. I wish the ending was slightly different, but that's just a me thing. Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richard is about a young woman who is going to visit her mom? I think it was her mom. Can't remember. One of the parents. Believe it's her mom. Probably mom. After dealing with a terrible loss and, trying to get back home, and there's this blizzard in the middle of nowhere, and she befriends someone in her flight back home, or sure one of her parents are divorced, and so they're driving this car to get back home, but there's someone in the car of 5 complete strangers that is sabotaging their way back home, and the storm is preventing them from getting back home. Also, she's the minor. She's everyone else thinks that she's a freshman in a university. She's a junior in high school. She's a high school student, and it's awkward for her, and it's terrifying, so everyone except one person knows that she's not a university student. And what I love about this book is that you find out who the sabotager is. Everyone is lying about something. Everyone's kind of lying about something. But in between chapters, you'll get this note and letters of how not all of these people are complete strangers towards one another. And it slowly starts building and building. And those elements made the situation much more terrifying. And I absolutely adored everything about the book. The House Where Death Lives is an anthology where we have a different set of horror stories, and each of the floors is a kind of start of a horror. So it starts with the attic, and then the second floor, or the hallway, and then the landing. It's delightful. I absolutely adored it. There is one thing. There's a ballerina story that, again, this is a short story, it's an anthology, that really, once I read that, and especially after reading The Wicked Bargain, I read recently in July. I'll talk about that in the July overview, and in the shorts of it, the book, I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast is Me, that blows that book out of the water. The ballerina story is so captivating and horrifying, and again, it's a short story, and I feed her to the beast, and the beast is me. It doesn't capture that, that dread and that fear and that desperation for something. And I absolutely adore the ballerina story. And The Wicked Bargain also kind of shows what a bargain is, how demons work, how darker forces get the bargain. Even We Defy the Monsters do this, and it in a way that I feed her to the beast and the beast is me doesn't understand or capture. So yeah, that's one of my favorite. It's not one of my favorites, but it gave such a good description of how bargainings and darker forces work, and also your inner demons, how people end up destroying themselves because of their own demons that they're fighting. But in the best way I can say it. Come Fly the World, Jet Age Story of Women of Pan Air by Julia Cook is a story of the history of flight stewardesses, how they started with, how they began, and the dangers they faced as international flights were a thing, and flying wasn't just a thing in the military. And it's fascinating because a lot of these women, when they started off, wanted to be something more. They had these much more higher academic career choices and academic wants, but the field of science just wasn't there for them. There wasn't a system that afforded them this opportunity to be able to be well known in the field of science they want to study more. So it's really delightful and interesting. You know what? I can put these together. Bury Your Gaze and Camp Dias by Chuck Tingle. And these are his newer horror books, because Chuck Tingle is known for his eroticism. And, I huge fan of his type of eroticism, but his horror books were the first introduction towards his work. And they are amazing and dark and creepy and unnerving, and I absolutely adore them. They're so raw and true, And the way he describes like a character, Camp Dice's character has autism and I have undiagnosed autism, like how connected I felt as someone who is born female. Like the female traits of autism was so beautifully written that I like, oh my gosh, this person did research on how autism presents to a woman of someone who was born a woman with autism. It's so good. It's great, and I absolutely adored it. The religious trauma in Camp Diocese was perfect and great, and like somebody actually made me terrified, and like I could recognize my own religious trauma in a text, and like I've been waiting so hard, so much for someone else to write religious trauma in a way that doesn't demonize the religion, but demonize the practice that causes damage to the members of the community. And I'm like, they did it. I loved it. I adored it. It makes me kind of want to read his erotic fiction. Yeah, I'm asexually romantic. It's not something that I need to read. A Cruel Thirst by Angela Montego? Montea? Is a pre-Hispanic Mexican vampire story, which is like great and fantastic, and I absolutely adore it. We have a female vampire hunter who is badass, and a soft little sad boy who is a newly turned vampire who is a giant dork, and I love it. P.S. I Hate You by Lauren Cunnell is about making your own found family and about dealing with grief and connecting with people that you thought you lost touch in or you could never be together. And it's a beautiful love story, but it's also a really beautiful story of healing. It's written in a way that's supposed to be a rom-com, but for me, it was very much a book on healing from trauma, and it's glorious. I absolutely adored it. Be My Villain, Season 1. It's a webcomic by Mintable. Is a story about a villain who falls in love with the son of like these agents, because they're not heroes, they're just agents for an agency, a hero agency, and it's him trying to find out what made him have these abilities, and also the hero's son like dealing with his feelings towards this villain. It's a sweet series. I just finished season 1, can't wait to start season 2. The Radium Girls is a book that I read a while back, but I can still remember how much anger and hatred I felt for the fact that these women were told that radium, which was, the paint that they were using for clocks, wasn't dangerous at all. And so they could totally put the paints with radium into their mouths to be able to have that perfect pin for clock facing, and how the companies did everything they could to stop having to pay for their medical costs. Mostly Adolite is another classic remix. This time it's Pride and Prejudice, about it where Elizabeth is a trans man. And it has elements of fantasy, but it's such a delight, and I love it so much that I have to love even the rewriting in history. So yeah, Emma is now a gentleman, and also Mr. Darcy is gay. So it's an interesting story. There's some historical fabrication on the parts, but it's still Pride and Prejudice. The base is still Pride and Prejudice. Just the romance between Emma and Mr. Darcy are different. So it's interesting. I loved it. I like the remix, except I have tried and failed to read the Treasure Island remix, and I just couldn't get into it. A Little Bit Country by Brian D. Kennedy is such an interesting story, because it's about this young man from Illinois who is a country pan singer, and even though he's a very out gay gentleman, and he kind of wants to go into this fictionalized Dollywood to be part of this musical score that has a high chance of getting records or whatnot. And he wants to get this opportunity to be a singer, as well as we're meeting another gentleman who hates country because it basically destroyed his family life. His grandmother was a part of the singer who is now the owner of this theme park. And after being the Judy? Go Joanne. I don't know. I'm thinking the fact. I'm like, there's Joanne, which is the fabric story. Then there's the song. Jolie. That's the name. Jolie. So she got married had an affair with the first husband of the owner, the country singer, who's the owner of the theme park. That basically destroyed his grandmother's life. He kind of has a hatred towards country music, and it doesn't help that his mother has a chronic illness, and basically he's working to be able to help pay her medical bills. It's interesting. It really shows like what life is like when you are a caretaker to someone who's disabled. So that was interesting for me as someone who is the disabled person. So I have to have caretakers to help me out. But I liked it. It's not my typical books that I'm like, I really get into, but I enjoyed it. Emmett, which is another classic remix of Emma, in which we have a gay gentleman who, like Emma, wants to match her friend. Emmett wants to match his friends with benefits because his friends with benefits has this desire for a romance. Unlike a lot of the other classics remix, I have not read Emma. It's on my lists of classics that I need to read, so I can't tell, like, this is very much like the original or the classic, but I enjoyed it. It's a very rom-com-y, it's humorous. It feels very close to Jane Austen because the background characters are fleshed out a lot, which is so light, which is one really big strengths of Jane Austen's work. Last one, The Bone Witch. Oh my gosh. I have not watched K-pop Demon Hunters, but a lot of the themes of K-pop Demon Hunters is a similar thing. Demon? The Bone Witch. We have a magic society that if you gain magic, they have skills, let them be, chosen to be demon hunters. If you have skills, you get chosen to be a witch. So there's a certain name for it, but basically kind of like protectors of cities. And there's different classes of magic. There's a bone witch, which is basically kind of like a necromancer, but bone witches have a select power that can kill demons. We follow a character who finds out she's a bone witch because she brings back her brother from the death after he's fought into war, and so she ends up being a bone witch. But like that, a lot of it has to be with like being presented in a perfect light, singing, performing, and so I like that whole aspect of like the performance and having this perfect outer perspective as the force of perfection is slowly destroying you away is the big core center of Bone. So I think a lot of K-pop team fans would enjoy that book. So yeah, those were my favorite books of this year as of August. Can't wait for the end of the year where I don't talk about hopefully all of these, and I have a new list of, I'm going to shorten it to like 10, my top 10 books of the year of 2025. Can't wait to talk to you about those, because I probably have read 200 books by then. Hopefully, that's my goal of 2025. See you then.